Welcome to the UNSECURITY podcast. Each week, Evan and Brad give an inside look at current information security news, breaches, best practices, and other things you should know to improve your information security. Here are your hosts, FRSecure's Evan Francine and Brad Nye.
All right, good morning, everyone. This is Brad Nye, your host for episode 36 of the UNSECURITY podcast. Today is Monday, July 15th, and joining me, as always, is Evan Francine.
This is where I say Evany things.
Those are Evany things.
I just said it.
All right, good. So we were just talking about this before, and it says it in the notes. I was trying to write this episode all weekend, and I was just struggling. And, you know, I know what we want to talk about. We talk about it all the time. But actually getting it written down, it was a struggle. I was just like, putting it off because
the show notes.
Yeah, the show notes and the research, and I was like, I don't know where to start.
Right.
And, you know, so that's where you can console for the writer's block, please.
Oh my God! No, I had some of that today. Even
did you?
I sat and looked at my screen.
It's crazy.
For 15 minutes.
Like I knew exactly what I wanted to say. It was in my head. Like if we had been talking, it'd have been fine.
Right.
I could not figure out where to start.
Yeah. Well, and so the topic for today's podcast is the money grab.
Yep.
And if anybody's a writer, and you and I are you do write, but we're going to be doing a lot more writing here.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon. You know what writer's block is? I mean, you just sit there. I stared at the letter Y. No, really, just the letter Y for like 15 minutes this morning.
Yeah. You just, yeah. I don't know how to explain it. If you haven't gone through it, it's tough to explain. You just sit there, you know what you want to say, and nothing happens. So finally yesterday, I'll be honest, I told my wife to take the kids, and they went and saw Toy Story 4. It's like, I've got to get, I can't.
There's 4 of them now?
Uh-huh.
Oh my God. I watched the first one like 1,000 times with my kids.
Yeah. It was pretty good apparently, but I was like, you got to go. I've got to get this done. It's now 3:00 on Sunday, and I've been putting it off. So I'm sitting there, just staring. I'm like, what am I going to write about? And then I just had my duh moment of, oh, wait a minute. Evan's already done this. There's a whole chapter in his book. What am I doing? So I seriously pulled out the book and reread chapter 9 and went, okay, here we go. And just nailed it out. Cause you just need that like little crack in the dam. And once it happens and you kind of get past that initial, it just really flew. So, thank you.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, that's what writer's block is. It's like breaking a dam. You just got to fight through it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just that initial, that sounds better. I moved over a little. Hello. Just getting started. Once you get it going, it flew. So we're going to talk about the money grab, as you put last week, the money we steal from each other or spend, for the more politically correct. So in the book, there's 3 problems you've identified. Plenty of snake oil for sale, the fear and sex sell a lot of stuff, and money spent poorly is bad money. And then, I think good timing. ISC2 just released a study on I think it was the 12th. Small businesses need new security solutions, but aren't always sure which ones. So I don't know if you had a chance to read that, because I did send it over pretty late. But it was really interesting that they say, yes, we absolutely need to do something. But, if they were asked if there were security tools or solutions they want but don't have budget for, 72% said yes. Well, yeah, that's the biggest problem is A, they don't have budget, even if they knew what to get. And B, if they have budget, they don't know where to start. What is their biggest risk, right? So they're getting constantly bombarded with, hey, this is the easy button. This fixes everything. Small businesses have a limited budget. Where is the right place to spend their money? So, I think we talk about that. And then, again, in the show notes, I went and found some information around global security, cybersecurity spending. One place is saying $1 trillion between 2017 and 2021. Gartner is saying over $124 billion in 2019. There's a couple of little graphs in there. State of IT for Spiceworks did a survey, and what are the leading factors for spending. And I think it was interesting. I think I just messed up my computer here. All right, there we go. Number 3 was 56% said top factor for IT budget was increased security concerns, and another 11% said recent security incident. So those two together, 67% said that's the reason. That would be the number one factor for increased budgets, and other ones, needing to upgrade outdated IT infrastructure. Well, yeah, that kind of goes along with security as well. Mm-hmm. But there's definitely a lot of money being spread around out there. Mm-hmm. And it seems like it's pretty universal that people don't know where to spend it. And they're just, hey, here's the easy button from whoever the vendor is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is people don't I don't know. There's so many things that tick me off about this. You have the crooks who are the obvious bad guys mm-hmm. that, steal money from you. We talked about that last week. And then you have these, they're almost crooks too, right? Crooks who sell you stuff and don't really care if it's a good spend of your money. We know that people don't like to work. We know that people like sexy stuff. We know that people just like to, hope that their problems go away. But a lot of things that you need to do in information security can't be automated. Right. They don't require you to buy a tool. They require you to understand how security works. They require you to do basic fundamental things. And that's where the cracks in the dam are for most people in their security programs.
Right. Yeah. A SIM solution is not the be all end all cure all. Right. You still have to configure it. You still have to monitor it. You still have to continuously tune it.
Well, and one of the things, I'm working with a large company right now, and they have a nice, expensive SIM solution. But if you understand the basics of how SIM works, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
If you've got crappy configurations in your servers and your applications and you're not sending good log data, then who cares about your SIM solution?
But we've got one. It checks the box.
Right. And so people, I think just, especially SMBs and companies that don't understand the fundamentals. I wrote a bunch of things last week, in these 100 truths mm-hmm. about security. And one of them last week was lazy security people suck.
Yeah.
Because it's true. Some of this stuff just takes work. Some of these things you might not have a tool for.
Right.
You might have to break out an Excel spreadsheet and, do some work.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
I agree. It is. It's crazy. I know we've had kind of along the same lines, right? That we've gone up against other large, nationally known, well-recognized companies for a risk assessment. Mm-hmm. And, when we were talking to the company, they're like, well, this other place was 3 times what you are going to charge. Mm-hmm. And they said that, for travel, they have to be, because of the distance, it was going to have to be first class tickets for their analyst and all this other stuff. And they're like, why are you so much less? And well, it's not a money grab for us, right? If you spend, we'll just make round numbers just to make it easy, right? If you spend $40,000 on an assessment versus, $10,000 or $15,000, well, what are you going to do to fix it? You spent your entire budget on finding the problems, and now you have no idea or no money left to actually do anything.
Right.
And we'd rather do the right thing. Could we probably charge more? Yeah, but that's not the point.
Well, nowadays,
the right fix.
Anybody with a laptop and a website can be an information security expert, right? And nobody would know the difference. And so I could give you all sorts of advice on, you need to do this, you need to buy that tool, buy this tool. And,
right.
It's not, those aren't the things that you need. What you need are the fundamentals still. Even reading this, so that you mentioned a bunch of things kind of at the top on, some studies. Those are all posted on the blog on evanfrancine.com for the show notes. And when you click that link and you look at the ISC2 blog, here's right in the middle of that article, here's a partial list of technologies they could use, meaning small to medium-sized businesses. Mm-hmm. And here's the list. Third-party firewall data encryption. Most SMBs don't even know what the hell you're saying.
Right.
What the hell is third-party firewall data encryption? More advanced malware detection and anti-phishing tools. Artificial intelligence and machine learning. Every time I see that, I throw up in my mouth.
Yeah.
My God. I get asked all the time, hey, tell me about, AI. I'm like, well, okay, let's talk about AI and let's talk about, so AI requires data. Right. And it requires lots and lots of data.
Correct. Where are you getting? Yeah.
We're data poor in this industry. I mean, the only good data we have is maybe network analysis and network traffic and things like that. But in terms of lost data, there is none.
Right.
Whitelisting. I mean,
that's a good one.
Right. But SMBs struggle with blacklisting.
Yeah. Well, I would say I can think of everybody I've worked with here from a customer standpoint. I can count on one hand the number of people that have done whitelisting to any extent. Okay. Well, yeah. Because it is hard to do. Man, excuse me.
Usually I'm the one coughing.
I know.
So, take whitelisting. Whitelisting requires me to have a very good application and asset inventory.
Right.
Because I need to know what I have.
Yep.
And before I'm going to know who it should be communicating to and how it should be communicating.
Right.
So you have to have a really intimate understanding of your environment, unless you're just going to whitelist onesie, twosie type things, but then you have such a back door and such a gap on everything else. I mean, if you're going to whitelist.
Right. Yeah, and it's not something you can just be like, all right, we're going to turn on whitelisting this weekend.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could.
Sure.
Yeah, but my guess is it's going to be uncomfortable come, the next couple of weeks as you fix things.
And then you've got round-the-clock monitoring. So these are the partial list of technologies that they could use. And it's funny when you look at these, just follow my thinking here. Third-party firewall data encryption, more advanced malware detection and anti-phishing tools, artificial intelligence and machine learning, whitelisting, and round-the-clock monitoring. Those all play really, really well for an MSSP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you just.
And I think, it says in there, right, that they are uncertain and self-aware about where they're at and where are they going to get their information from, their MSSP.
Right.
Right. So I think it makes sense.
But how many MSSPs today are there that just have a website and
right? Right. There's plenty.
And we'll sell you all these services for gobs and gobs of money. Right. And it's nice for them because it's monthly recurring revenue, which is like the nirvana, right? Yeah. So they get a bunch of MRR. And where in here is the basics?
Right.
You have no asset inventory.
And I kind of teased it in a reply to ISC2. You've talked about it and with what's coming with FRSecure and how that's intended to be, pretty game changing and disruptive.
Right. Absolutely.
So, and being vendor agnostic is huge for us. And I really like that we do that because
as long as I'm here, we'll always be product agnostic.
I'm with you.
There's no ulterior
it adds
motive.
so much. It adds value, and it's truth, right? Hey, here's your order.
That's my nickname, dude.
I know. That's why I said it.
I know.
It's not. But right, at the end of the day, they need to know what their biggest risks are.
Right.
If you don't have asset management, it doesn't matter what firewall encryption you have or round the clock monitoring because you're not monitoring the right things.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
No, it's and that's one of the reasons why we'll always be product agnostic is because our motives need to be clear. When we give recommendations to somebody, there's no ulterior motive. When I tell you your firewall sucks, it's because I'm not. I mean, it's not because I'm trying to sell you a firewall.
Right.
Your firewall really sucks.
Right.
And it's probably not your firewall that sucks. It's how you manage your firewall that probably sucks.
Or your firewall is like 12 years old and not supported.
Right. Yeah. So, it's those things. Everybody wants easy buttons. They sell. So, that's what it's all about. It's all about revenue.
I mean, you've talked about the log monitoring solution where they bought it and it sat on the shelf because it checked the compliance box. Mm-hmm. And then they said, yep, we've got one.
For a couple of years.
Right? I've seen the same thing. You get these things put in place to check a box, but then nothing's ever actually done with them. Yeah, we have DLP in place. Do you look at it? Do you, tune it? Do you make sure that it's working? Do you check, you have to actually monitor them things. You can't just, boom, hey, here's a software solution. We're all set.
Right. Yeah, they have to be tuned. They have to be configured correctly.
And that's hard work too. And it's very time consuming. I know.
I remember back in the day, I mean, I'm old enough and you probably are too, when it would take 6 to 8 months for an IDS device to actually give me good data.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much tuning involved.
Much faster now, but it's still, you can't just plug and play.
Right. You had to be really careful when you tune something out because you weren't going to get an alert on it again. So you had to really track this communication flow and make sure that it was truly legit.
So, DLP, right? We had a previous life, put it in place. We put it in monitor mode. Mm-hmm. The business said, no, we don't want to do that yet. We don't want to turn it on. It's too much, negative impact for the business if it catches false positives. All right, compromise. We're going to put it simply into alert mode. It's not going to block anything. It's just going to log the traffic. Mm-hmm. Reviewed it. On one Friday, I look in it and there's like 1,500 hits from one computer going to a USB drive for PHI, sensitive information. That's that feeling when your stomach just, drops. So go and tell the CIO, we go to the head of that department. And we're like, hey, here's what's going on. Turns out it was completely innocent. The lady had retired and was copying my documents so she'd have all her pictures and stuff. Well, she had also stored all the employee hire data, right? So she had social security numbers. She had a bunch of patient information in there just because that's where it's saved by default. So they called her. She came right back in with it. It turned out to be a non-issue.
Right.
That Monday they said, turn it on.
Right.
We'd had it in place for 6 or 8 weeks, monitoring it, logging it, tuning it on the back end.
Right.
And then we had that happen. I mean, imagine if you hadn't done it.
Well, and even, on the surface that may seem like a non-issue, but it's a compliance issue.
Oh yeah. I mean,
that might be a reportable
It could have been much, much worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But you would have never known if you weren't actually tracking it.
Right. So yeah, fear and sex. We've oversold fear.
Oh, I hate the FUD.
Well, and we've oversold it. So now it's no surprise that when I use logic with somebody about information security that they ignore it. Yeah. Because they've heard it enough. I mean, every time you mention statistics to somebody, like you mentioned a bunch of statistics, I know my own self, I have trouble not tuning out.
Yeah.
Because we've over-statistic the crap out of ourselves. You know what I mean? And we've oversold fear. Because most of these statistics and studies, anyway, you have to consider the source of these statistics and studies.
Yeah, if I'm ulterior motive.
Right. If I'm commissioning a study, I'm probably commissioning a study for a purpose, and it's probably to sell something to you.
Well, and was it you can make the numbers say anything you want.
Oh yeah, depending on who you're
what you're looking at and how you ask the questions, things like that.
So now when you legitimately tell somebody something that should invoke some fear based on logic, not just based solely on emotion, like here's something logical that you should be concerned about. Now, oftentimes it'll fall on deaf ears because we've oversold fear as an industry.
Yeah.
It happens to me all the time. Not all the time, but, I'll talk to somebody and tell them, look, not having an incident response plan. Let's just talk through the logic of not having an incident response plan and how important that is to you. Let's just play it out. So there's a breach. Mm-hmm. You know that no matter what you do, no matter how much money you spend, no matter how blinky your lights are, you're going to have a breach.
Right. It's
just a matter of
when.
Yeah. And so then what happens? Play it out. Just play out the scenario. So, and as you do that, you start to realize, yeah, crap, I should have an incident response plan. Well, then let's get one. Let's do it.
Right. Well, we had an IR a couple months ago, and we got in there, and they didn't want to pay. We're pretty sure they had an active breach. They didn't want to pay for the 24/7. Let's get going. They went, nope, just during the day. So we started it, and their office was closed on Friday because of a remodel or something happened. They're actively breached.
Yeah,
and we couldn't get an
attacker in your system.
In your system. Well, we'll get back to you on Monday. Monday comes around. We finally get a call set up for Tuesday. Fastest they would move.
Right.
Get in. Yep, you've got active hits. Like basically 2/3 of your machines have different, you name it type of situation. We get through the first, block of 20 hours. We're like, hey, you're still seeing active hits on the threat hunting tool.
Still here.
Well, I got to try and see if insurance will pay for it, or if not, if it's worth it. And they decided not to continue.
Yeah. Well, and see, what you're doing is you're making a case for where you absolutely should spend money. I mean, that should be a no-brainer.
But
it
wasn't, I don't see the value of it. And I think part of that is people become so numb to this stuff happening. So they're actively breached the tool that we were using to contain it. That trial license expired. It's not going to stop anything anymore.
Right. Yeah. So we've absolutely oversold fear in our industry. And I don't think there's any way really back from that, but that's, it does drive. It makes our job more difficult because but it's also in a good way. We have to educate more. Mm-hmm. We have to spend more time. We have to explain ourselves more. Because people are tired of being sold crap. I mean, people are starting to wake up like, right. But they keep buying crap.
Well, because they don't know any better.
True.
Right. It's not, I don't think the majority of people are buying it just to buy it. Mm-hmm. At this point, I think a lot of them are buying it because they think it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Or they're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
They just need education on what that is.
Yeah.
Right?
And so I'll tell you what that is. Spend your money on your most significant, unacceptable risk.
Right. And if you don't know what that is,
risk.
Yeah, figure it out.
Right.
Don't guess.
But risk assessments, they're not sexy.
No.
I mean, they're...
No.
Right? No, they're not. Well, and especially when you've done risk assessments before and you've done the sort of risk assessment where you do it and then it takes you to what we've been told is takes you to the edge of the cliff and then leaves you hanging. There's no next steps. So you did your risk assessment, you checked the box on the compliance form, and then it's set up on your shelf, right? You didn't use it for the next step, which would be make some decisions on what you're going to do with the risk roadmap. But that's one of the big reasons why, so when we talk about sex cells, that's one of my peeves about the word cybersecurity.
Oh, I know.
It's so much sexier than information security, but it's not the same thing.
Correct. Right. And I think, but there is a right place and usage for it.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Like our incident response is cyber incident response.
Right.
It is a technical focused incident response program.
Right.
It's not, hey, you had a chemical spill and we're going to help with the incident response. No.
Right.
It's cyber focused.
So
if it's used correctly, but most people don't do that.
So one of the citations or one of the supporting things for this podcast was you cited from Cybersecurity Ventures, global cybersecurity spending predicted to exceed $1 trillion from 2017 to 2021, which is only like a year and a half away now.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if, being that they called it global cybersecurity spending, that must not include anything about information security training and awareness. It must not include anything about policies, procedures, risk assessments. It must not include anything about physical security, because all those things are not cybersecurity.
Correct. And if you look,
but that's not what they're referring to.
No, I don't think so. And the Gartner one, I grabbed their chart. It's all there. There is nothing around governance. There's nothing around, training and awareness. Any of the, well, maybe security services, but that's not how I read that.
Yeah, look at how big that number is. 64, is that $billion?
Million.
No, it is
No, it is
64
billion. Wow.
Damn. What kind of services are those? That's where your MSPs are. Thing.
Yeah, probably.
And probably people like us too. There.
We're in there. I would say, the big ones. That's probably where your incident response. So that's probably blown up with, the big IR providers. So
for listeners who can't see what it is that we're looking at, we're looking at the blog on that. You provided a table there.
Yep.
In our show notes, if you wanted to see what we're talking about the Gartner provided a study that spending is going to exceed $124 billion in 2019. And the good thing, kudos to Gartner, because I point out bad things, but I'll point out a good thing: global information security spending. So they use the word information security as opposed to cybersecurity. It's expected to exceed $124 billion, which I don't think most of us can mentally get our head. I mean, I have trouble getting my head around what that number is.
Well, and if you look, so half of that is security services. Like half of every year. So you have 2017, 18, and 19. 2017, the total spend was $101.5 billion, and $52 billion was security services.
Mm-hmm.
And it went to $114 billion in 2018 and almost $59 billion, and now $124. But in 3 years, it's saying it went from $101 to $124 billion spent.
Right.
And, we just keep hearing it, and people, I think you're right, people are just throwing money at the problem, not knowing, is it the right thing to do?
Right. Yeah, that's one of my peeves too, is when you see, like I was talking to, I was in Los Angeles, and I was talking with a company that was trying to hire a CISO. And so they wanted some of my advice on, hiring a CISO. So I asked them, well, tell me a little bit about your information security program. I mean, kind of where are you at? And, and so they started right off with, well, last year alone, we spent over $10 million on information security. I'm like, okay, so
on what?
So, I mean, I don't know what that means.
Right.
On what? Yeah, exactly. What did you spend it on? But it was an education process, not only in helping them find a CISO, but also in helping them understand that it's not a function of how much money you spent; it's where you spent it that really matters. Governments will talk about that too, right? Even our own state of Minnesota, we're going to spend X number of millions of dollars on information security next year. Great, it's still a mess. You're not spending it well. So,
anyway.
So
in the Gartner, I was just reading it, they do define out services, which is subscription and managed. So 50% of security software, you're looking at hybrid deployment. So deploying specific security technologies such as SIEM in a hybrid deployment model. So in on-prem and in the cloud. And managed services represented about 24% of deployments.
Okay.
So it's a huge amount of money out there, but is it the right thing? Or, are you spending money on a good, right? You could spend money thinking you're doing the right thing, but it's a really bad company that doesn't know what they're doing. And we see so many of those.
Right. I wouldn't spend, my advice is I wouldn't spend $1 unless I knew with some level of certainty that it was a well-spent dollar.
Right.
I mean, is this going to reduce my most significant risk, or is it going to at least reduce risk by some function, more than the dollars I'm spending?
Yeah.
And that requires analysis. It requires,
knowing your systems, it goes back to knowing your risk posture. Where are you at?
It really does. That's where it's got to start. And the place not to go, honestly, the place not to go for this type of information is a vendor. Right? Yeah. I mean, unless potentially it's a product agnostic vendor, but you don't call up Symantec and ask them, hey, what solutions should I consider in my environment?
Right.
And they'll be like, oh, do this. And be careful even asking peers, right? If you ask a peer, hey, what are you doing for this or that? What kinds of solutions? Because they're going to recommend more often than not the solutions that they've purchased because it justifies their purchase. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if I bought Symantec and I'm like, God, I don't know if I should have bought Symantec, and I can get you to buy Symantec, that'll make me feel better for buying Symantec. And I'm not picking on Symantec. I'm just saying.
McAfee, whoever, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. No, I'm with you. And you definitely fall into that. And I think people have asked us, what do we use? Or what have we used, in the past? What do we see? And, I'll tell them, right? My last job, I used Sophos, their total endpoint. Mm-hmm. Overall, it worked really well.
Right.
It wasn't without pain points, and it's not going to be the right fit for everyone. But it's rare to hear that that honesty from people, because exactly that, they want to justify it. I'm like, well, yeah, it added some overhead, it had some problems. So, it's funny here. We're doing our podcast, and today's our all hands.
A bunch of people.
So everybody's now walking in. Luckily, I have my back to them, so
whenever somebody asks me, "Hey, Evan, what product are you using?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm a security guy. I'm not telling you what product I use."
Yeah.
The hell?
Well, I'm not saying now.
No, I'm not telling you ever. For me, I'll tell you because I trust you.
But I don't mind, because that's what people want to hear, our experience, right?
Yeah, I know.
And I'll, like you said, we'll tell the truth. Hey, I thought it worked pretty well.
Right.
That's not to say it was perfect by any means.
Right.
Same Symantec I've used, McAfee I've used.
I drive a Ford truck. I can tell you Ford trucks are the best.
Okay.
Are you a Chevy guy?
Nah, whatever. Okay. I had a Chevy. I've had Chevys. I haven't had any Fords. I had Dodge and Chrysler back in the day.
So anyway, sorry. Yeah, exactly.
We're dating ourselves.
So plenty of snake oil. What would snake oil be?
That's the easy button, right? Like, hey, put this in place and your problems go away.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you see it, and we see it even with really good tools that they almost oversell the simplicity of it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And I think endpoint protection is the biggest area we see that.
Sure.
Advanced AI, whatever buzzwords they put in place, regardless of if the tool is, it might be a good tool, but it feels like they're not being, they're marketing and buzzing and wording it up. And
so to me, snake oil is something that
doesn't work.
Well, it doesn't work. Yeah. I mean, it's something that promises to do something that it doesn't do.
Well, but I think I guess so. I'm thinking, right, they're going, oh, just buy it, put it in place, and you don't have to worry. And that's not the case.
Yeah, you'll never have that.
You still have to, right, if you just buy a product and throw it in, it's never going to work.
Right.
You have to spend the time on it. And I think, to me, that's where I'm coming from, is them going and saying, hey, put it in place and all your problems are solved. To me, that's snake oil. Now, put it in place and monitor it and tune it and, spend some time with it, and it's going to reduce your risk. Okay, that's not snake oil now.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I think on the second point, fear and sex sells a lot of stuff. The importance there is don't use as much as you can. Emotion always plays a role in any purchasing decision. I get that. You can't eliminate emotion, but make logic as much as you can trump emotion in every purchasing decision you make.
Right.
And if you can't understand, or if you don't understand how a technology works, don't buy it. Yeah. Learn how the technology works first and then buy it.
Right.
And so you might have to put off a purchase for 6 months while you get a little bit of training on how this new thing works. Do it. It's money well spent. Because I've seen so many times too where people bought a product and it's a great product.
Right.
But you're not using it. You're not doing it right. You know?
The
vendor probably doesn't give a rat.
No, they
made the sale. Right. And they're getting the support contract. So, that's, when I say fear and sex sells a lot, try as much as you can to use logic to make all of your purchasing decisions. And then the money, spent poorly is bad money. I don't know about you, Brad, but I have a limited budget. It doesn't matter how much, it doesn't matter how much money I make. I still have a limited budget.
Correct.
And so in information security, we've been fighting for dollars ever since I started in this industry, trying to get a sufficient budget. But not everybody, many people suck at budgeting for security.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You ask what the right budget is, and it's all over the place.
Right.
Percentage of the total IT spend. Well, how do you justify that? Right. There's no. Yeah.
So every dollar that you get for information security, you better spend it wisely.
Right.
You better get the most bang for your buck on those dollars. And I'm one of those guys, and I think you are too, where I take it even more personal. I'll give you an example. I worked at a company. It was a big pharmaceutical company. I was their CISO prior to starting FRSecure, and we made oncology drugs.
Okay.
Right, which is cancer, to fight cancer and stuff. And so I had bought. I knew I needed some kind of a network access control was a big thing.
Right.
Then. So, I went out to market looking for a network access control solution, found one that I just really liked, spent like $200,000-$300,000 on this thing, and realized that, oh crap, I just pissed away because I don't have time to manage it.
Yeah.
I don't have time to tune it. And, I took that really personally because at the end of the day, I mean, if you want to use logic here, that's $200,000-$300,000 that I just took from money we could have spent to make our drugs better, money that we could have spent to reach more people, to make their lives improved.
Or on a product that actually did what you needed.
Right. So, every dollar that you spend as well on information security is a dollar you take away from
something else in the business, whatever that may be.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if I can use my dollars in information security to reduce risk and further the organization's mission, those are no-brainer dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, spend those all day long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it does take work. It does take analysis. It does take education. It does take experience. You just have to go through this.
And then I think part of the issue is as well, we keep seeing the shortage of qualified security talent.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got people making decisions. We've already know that there's not enough good qualified security people out there.
Right.
It just compounds.
It does.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That was fun. So
that was fun.
Yeah. The last one I threw in there, I don't, if you saw it. So they're in the blog post, it's the Cybersecurity Ventures, the Gartner one, Spiceworks, the State of IT. I just thought that was interesting from a spend perspective, that, we know we need to do this. This is where we're getting money. But I think it still goes back to the not knowing. And then I kind of threw the last one in there. IT security salesman told me his software doesn't work.
Right.
So this is on zdnet.com. And, reading through it, it was, I don't know about you as you read through it, if you're just like shaking your head going, yeah, no S, Sherlock.
Right.
So basically the author was playing golf and just happened to meet up with a guy and, how often they played, blah, 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 talking. Okay, he's in sales and he does IT security sales, which, is a huge thing. And he's like, he worked for a well-known company and unprompted goes, our product doesn't work.
Right.
And he's like, what do you mean? Like I said, quite well known in the field. And what he said is most of the hackers are always one step ahead. It doesn't matter what the security software is, they'll find a way around it. Yeah. No kidding.
Yep.
Like we've been saying that for years. What's the lag time on antivirus signatures catching up?
But Brad, I know what'll fix it. AI.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, God.
Well, and what kills me is this guy knows it and he's still going out and selling it.
Right.
Like how? Yeah. So he unburdened himself on a stranger, probably having no idea the guy was a writer and was going to do it. But like, how do you
sleep at night?
Yeah. Like,
well, and in my opinion, you're actually something like that. You're actually worse than the crooks, because at least the crooks are honestly crooks. I mean, they know they're not. But it's this. They're crooks. This guy's a crook, and you don't even know.
This is the money grab, right? This is what's wrong with so much. Now, what he was saying and he's
not isolated. He's not.
Oh no, this is pandemic across the industry. But I think what he actually said, his quotes are really good, truthful quotes.
Yeah.
Right. Most of them are overseas. If you can find, even if you can find where they are, even if you know where they're in, the government doesn't care and won't do anything. Mm-hmm. And so there's nothing anyone can do. No, not really. Well, okay, that's not entirely true, right?
Right.
There are things we can do. We can do our risk assessment. We can know our risk. We can do our assets. We can have logging and alerting in place. Mm-hmm. We can't stop everything.
Right.
The things that we can't stop, can we report on them? Can we get alerted about them?
Yeah.
There are things we can do.
Absolutely.
But
it's fundamentals, man.
The last quote just pisses me off.
Twisted your undies?
Our software is pretty good compared to most of the others, so no, I don't feel bad. And anyway, I get to play golf 3 times a week. Really?
It's all about him.
And that's what's wrong.
Oh yeah.
And you see it all the time.
Right. Well, and that stuff, that sort of mentality will never fly here.
No.
Where we work. It's not, it's not a self-serve. It's not a self-serving culture.
What's great is I've actually had, I had 2 last week. I didn't even know when it was. I've lost all track of time. Within the last month, I had a salesman come. They had somebody reach out to them, and it was not going to be a good fit. It just wasn't what we do.
Right.
And they said, you know what? We talked about it for a couple minutes. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go back to him and say, you know what? This just isn't right for us. This isn't what we do. Rather than try and shoehorn something in or make something work.
Right.
They said, you know what? We're not the right fit for you.
Yeah.
Which when you get salespeople doing that, you've got them bought. Like they're bought into what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Which is,
I love it.
It's awesome.
I sleep like a baby. Yeah. And I may not be able to play golf 3 times a week, but I didn't get into this industry to play golf 3 days a week. I got into this industry to help people.
Right. Yeah. It's not about just cashing out.
Right.
Right. If we needed to, if I wanted to cash out, I would go work somewhere else for a lot more money, and I'd be miserable and stressed out all the time and go home and not be happy. And
right.
I mean, we've all been in that position.
For sure.
I go home at the end of the day, every day going, I made a positive change. I've done good things. I've helped someone.
Exactly.
I mean, even if it's just on a call and going, you guys can do these 2 things, like on a pre-sales call or just not even a billable engagement.
Right.
Hey, yeah, we can help you, but until we get to that point, do this, because if you don't, you're going to be calling us for an incident response.
Yep.
And that's going to be a lot more expensive, and that's not going to help anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. It just pisses me off.
Well, let's make more of us out there in the industry, make more people. Because I do know, I follow some of these people on Twitter. Run, a lot of them are connections on LinkedIn, and a lot of them are personal connections. There are groups and pockets of information security people, and maybe even most information security people, who really do want to make a difference in the world, really do want to help people. We have to root out, we really do have to root out the money grabbers and get them out of the industry.
Yeah.
They're hurting us.
Right. Yeah. It hurts the entire industry too, right?
I mean, it's
because
like
it kills all of our...
I mean, what do you do with a wolf in sheep's clothing?
Expose them?
You kill the wolf.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
I wasn't sure where you were going
no,
with that.
I mean, but it's the truth. You can't...
You gotta get rid of them. Yeah.
And I'm not saying go out and kill anybody, but what I am saying is you have to be brutally honest. You have to be harsh.
Right.
They need to get out of our industry. Go sell used cars.
Yeah. Yeah. It like I said, it hurts. This guy at whatever well-known company he's at is ruining the reputation of everyone else.
Yeah, and it's too bad in that ZDNet article. Yeah, I mean, I understand that he's got to keep his, author job and everything, but, it'd be nice if he would outed specifically the company and the guy's name.
Yeah, that'd been. I would have settled for the actual solution, right? Mm-hmm. It's an IDS or it's a whatever they're known for, just to give us something. But
all right, man, we're coming up towards the end of the show already. Because see, we start talking. We could talk about the money grab for a long time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, any of these when we get kind of ranting on them.
Why? You and I both hate seeing people get taken advantage of. I hate it.
Yeah,
I do.
Well, it's just not the right thing to do. Mm-mm. Just do the right thing.
Right.
Anyway. All right. Yeah. So good discussion. Like I said, I even put it in the notes. We get heated up about these things. So some news articles real quick. I thought this tied in nicely with what we were talking about. IT pros, understaffed, under-resourced, and under pressure. So
under pressure.
Ding, 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 great. Now you're going to get that in my head. We'll be out at the all hands meeting. I'm just going to start singing that.
Right on. Let's do it.
While you're talking. So this was on Naked Security for Sophos, IT pros, understaffed, under-resourced, and under pressure. They surveyed 3,100 IT managers across 12 countries about cybersecurity experience, organizations between 100 and 5,000 users. So it's a pretty good sample size and a very representative business size. 2 out of 3 organizations, 68%, suffered a cyber attack in 2018 they were unable to prevent from entering the network. And 9 out of 10 that said they were running up-to-date cybersecurity protection at the time.
Of course they were.
So, they're like, oh, what should we be doing? So, it's, yeah. So, just a couple more, 53% suffered phishing emails. But I think the one thing that really stood out and why I included this is, it said 86% of the respondents said they needed more skills to combat these threats. And the problem is they can't get them. 8 out of 10 said they struggled to recruit the right people. So it's the same. It's what we keep hearing. And it ties into going back to the money grab. Mm-hmm. I can't hire people. I'm going to throw software at it.
Right.
And AI, because there's a shortage. There's not qualified people
understand.
out there.
I mean, I understand too. I mean, you're sort of stuck, right, in this catch-22 for SMBs. If you can't afford the talent and you do know you have to do something, right? So you do try to go out and buy something to do something.
And I don't blame them, right? They
right.
are trying, at least they're trying to do something, but yeah. All right. So that if you're feeling the pain, you're definitely not alone.
Well, the way you solve for that, I mean, I think understaffed, resourced, either find somebody in your own organization that you can train up in the way, right? Yeah. So go get them some training so that they can become that person for you.
But Evan, if I train them, they're going to leave for more money somewhere
which
else.
Is okay. Because I mean, sometimes it's okay, but if you have a good culture, they probably won't leave anyway.
Right.
And I think another thing is, find a vCISO, so a virtual chief information security officer, but find one with, I would say, at least 2 criteria before you just go out and invest in a vCISO. One, they need to be product agnostic.
Yeah.
So if you're going out to market to try to find a vCISO and they sell products, beware. And second, a vCISO that you can measure progress, right? So what are they specifically doing for me and how are they driving down risk or helping me manage risk? If you don't understand that really well, give us a call and I mean, we will not sell you, I promise, because that's not how we roll. But we're here to help, and a lot of times you'll get free advice. So do something about it.
Absolutely. Second article I had was from ThreatPost. Thousands of IoT devices bricked by Silex malware.
So you say IoT, it's not IOT?
IOT. It's close enough to idiot.
Yeah.
So this one is nuts. 14-year-old hacker used a new strain of malware this week to brick up to 4,000 insecure devices before shutting down command and control server abruptly, which, mom or dad came in and said, "What are you doing? Get off your computer."
Right.
14. That's insane, though. So the comment was, it was Larry Cashdollar, who is a senior security intelligence response engineer at Akamai. He found it, but the hacker reached out to him and said, he was trying to take down targets for other script kiddies who might be looking to build botnets, and he was just getting sick of it. His sole motivation was to remove the vulnerable IoT devices that botnets are built on to stop other script kiddies from building botnets, and it was aggravating him. And this is, I think, the definition of maybe, kind of that gray hat. It sounds like he had a good intention and just not a good execution in terms of what he should have done. Mm-hmm. But it's crazy, you got a 14-year-old kid just shutting down 4,000 devices and bricking them. What's going to be interesting is, what are these companies going to do for their customers?
Right.
Because were they not patching? How did this happen?
I think his last name is cool. Cashdollar.
Yeah.
It's going to be I'm going to change my name to Evan Cashdollar.
Cashdollar. But it's a really good thing. So Lindsay O'Donnell interviewed him on the ThreatPost podcast, and they've got a transcription there. It was a really interesting read. And then the last article I have was, and we've started talking about this, you made the initial prediction last January, I think, was, about there's going to be a cybersecurity incident that cost people lives.
Yep.
And I think this is along those lines. I thought of that. So again, this is off of Naked Security by Sophos. Cyber attack lands a ship in hot water. And basically a ship was affected by a deep draft vessel. So this is a big boat. So the malware significantly degraded functionality of onboard computer system, but essential vessel control systems were not impacted. But the interagency response found the vessel was operating without effective cybersecurity measures in place, exposing critical vessel control systems to significant vulnerabilities. It's
scary.
It's scary, right? Heck, a cruise ship.
Right.
That's got, a couple thousand people on it, and all of a sudden they have no control.
Right.
It's a huge catastrophe, or a container ship with, all those containers on it. Right. So, International Maritime Organization only issued guidelines on cyber risk management in 2016. I think this is going to be better, but the one comment was pretty funny. Penetration testing firm used default passwords on satellite communication systems to tamper with their electronic chart display systems, which provides electronic navigation charts. So there you go. Default passwords.
There you go.
Super secure.
Well, unfortunately, this will fall on deaf ears too.
Until, right?
I don't know, man.
Until something happens. That's what I'm saying, though, right?
We've oversold fear, so it's like, okay,
I think
great.
It's scary.
Unless you're on the cruise ship or you're on the ship, itself. You're just like, oh, that'll never happen to me. I mean, that's our ill logic that always gets in the way of these things.
Yeah. All right.
Crazy, man. Good show.
All right. So that's a wrap. Thanks again to our listeners. Thank you, Evan. Have a great week. Don't forget, you can follow Evan or myself on Twitter. I'm at Brad Nye. and Evan's is at Evan Francine. And always email the show at unsecurity@protonmail.com.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the UNSECURITY podcast. We value our listeners and would love to hear from you. Give us your feedback by emailing us at unsecurity@protonmail.com. That's UNSECURITY@PROTONMAIL.com. Be sure to tune in next week to hear the latest insights from Brad and Evan.